Okay. Is there anything I'm not aware of that I should mention in prayer? Did you hear me?
Ask that we would all understand the methodology and the rules and be able to rightly apply them. That we all come into unity and have the mind of Christ.
Amen. Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much, Lord, for bringing all of us together like you do, Lord, for technology that unites us when we're so spread out. Thank you, Lord, for my brothers and sisters in this message. For some of them are so strong in areas, Lord, and I appreciate so much what each one brings to the table to help all of us come into the unity. And that's what Sister Elaine and all of us are asking for, Lord, that we are granted, Lord, a blessing from thee, that you bestow upon us, unworthy as we are, Lord, but we're hungry for the truth, and we really want to understand it better, and we want to remember it, Lord. It's so hard to remember all these facts, especially the older the brain gets, Lord. It's so hard. But we're coming here, Lord, like little children, and we're trusting that you'll grant this for us to help us remember what we're learning, to help us understand these lines, Lord, to help us better understand the methodology, Lord, that we're learning through your leaders' tests and through Parmenter, Lord. We each want to be able to do this for ourselves, and we can only do that if you grant us this blessing, Lord. Help us come into unity of this understanding, Lord. And just thank you for your patience with each one of us, God. And keep your special hedge of protection around each family here represented. And save us, Lord. Please save us and help us save all those awaiting to hear this message. And bless John and his presentation, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen.
Yeah.
All right. What do you guys see on the screen right now? Because I've got like a bunch of things up and I don't know if I'm sharing properly. Is it just one document that you see?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yep.
All right, so the presentation that I'm doing tonight is from Germany. It's World War I. It's a two-part one. They're both relatively short, I guess. So hopefully I can get through it in a good time. So, and I'm gonna do a little thing after the first part. So pay attention. All right. So before we review the third war of the Diadochi, I want to reinforce one point that I've been saying all year. Some people still seem to not be getting or accepting. So I want to make a point. We've studied some wars these past 8 months. Those wars are characterized by elephants. When we make application, we could see battles in our history, 2016, 2018, and 2019, and Paneum. And each battle is decided by the use of elephants. One common mode of warfare. We are able to build strong logic to show that elephants equal a mode of warfare that you could describe as information war, which is psychological. The weapon developed in the information age is information weaponry. Before we go into our wars, I just want to reiterate this point. The strength of the evidence we have to demonstrate that what this war looks like. In this paragraph, Ellen White is talking about the war in heaven, the first war ever fought. When you go to the end of the paragraph, she quotes a Bible verse. So the paragraph she's talking about is from 7 BC, page 973.4, but she's only taking a little snippet out of it. So the first ever war fought, when you go to the end of that paragraph, she quotes a Bible verse. And the Bible verse is Revelation 12:7. And it reads, "And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven." So Satan fought against Christ, and Satan lost and was thrown out of heaven. If we identify the structure of a paragraph, we know that this concluding sentence is introduced in the first sentence and repeated in the body. So the first and leading sentence of this paragraph is going to summarize the point being made. The body of the paragraph will repeat it, and the conclusion will repeat it again. You guys get that? So there's going to be, I'll just repeat that. The first and leading sentence of the paragraph is going to summarize the point being made. So this is just basic English breakdown of writing. The body of the paragraph is going to repeat what you had in the first sentence of the paragraph, and then the conclusion is going to repeat it again. The conclusion is the war in heaven, but the leading sentence already defines for us what the war in heaven looked like. And she says, the influence of mind on mind, so strong a power for good when sanctified, is equally strong for evil in the hands of those opposed to God. And then in the body of the paragraph, she describes how, so I should probably open this paragraph up. How am I going to do this with one thing? I'll have to change my share screen. I don't know if I have the paragraph here. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to share both. Anyways, I'll just keep going. Sorry about that. And okay, so, and then in the body of the paragraph, she describes how Satan manipulated the minds of the angels. So if the concluding sentence is talking about the war in heaven, the first sentence of the paragraph tells us what type of war that was. And the war in heaven was a war of mind on mind. So that's an information war. And it's the alpha of warfare. If that was the first ever war fought, we can go to the last war ever fought, and we can find that was described in the great controversy Satan has prepared for the last struggle for supremacy. The second advent has already occurred. The dead are raised. Satan gathers an army. As the dead are raised, and he sees the multitude that he now commands, his hope revives. He looks out at this mass of resurrected people, and he sees among them the greatest generals the world has ever known. Napoleon stands side by side with Alexander, who stands side by side with Hitler, who stands side by side with Pyrrhus, and side by side with the Silver Shields. And the Silver Shields, for those who haven't heard of them yet, they were like an elite army of Alexander. And they were called the Silver Shields because of the silver plating that they had around the shield. And they were handpicked, just basically an elite force, and they're called the Silver Shields. So the greatest generals the world has ever known, the most powerful soldiers ever born, all resurrected and united under Satan's banner. And as we see those tens of thousands, he looks at the New Jerusalem, God's people, and he believes he can take the city. And what does Satan begin to do? He starts to build weapons of war. Satan thinks that he's all ready for I think that's supposed to be a hot war. He thinks that he's all ready for a hot war. And what does Jesus do? Above the throne of God is revealed the cross. Like a panorama over the throne appear the scenes of world's history, from the fall of Adam and Eve all through history to the second advent. Those thousands that are united under Satan are prepared for a hot war. They built fires, started building their iron weapons, and they're marching on the city. And God says, no, you started with an information war. Satan waged an information war. He fought against God using the power of mind on mind. So the last war, God says to Satan, I'm going to fight against you with an information war, mind on mind. And as the thousands under Satan begin to march, before them is opened up 6,000 years of history. And what happens to Satan's army? They turn on their leader. They don't attack the New Jerusalem. Instead, they attack Satan. The time has come for the last desperate struggle. Satan rushes into his army and tries to inspire them with his anger, but they've all turned against him. That's interesting. None acknowledged his leadership. Satan's power is at an end. If anyone has any questions, just feel free to interrupt. Or
if I could, I never thought of that before, but that kind of reminds me of when the world turns on Babylon a little bit.
Well, this is a repeating thing, right? Because this is what the information war is. The reason when Putin is attacking the United States, he's turning his own their people against each other. So it's not a hot war. And the counterattack is the same thing. So it's all this information. I was thinking like internally, I was just thinking how weird it was that these people were turning on, I don't know, never mind. I don't think it really applies. It was just a weird thought about someone rushing in and trying to inspire hate in the middle of the people, and they all turned on him.
Yeah. For the thing with the Babylon though, I'm just wondering, because isn't that what happens, is that Satan, his devices were revealed before the throne of God and everyone turned on him, and isn't it that Babylon's sins are revealed and everyone turns on her?
Yeah.
So that happens after Sunday law, or no, after close of probation after Sunday law.
That's right. And we get those quotes of people saying, you know, like they're angry because they realize that they're on the losing side now.
Yeah, like and it does happen internally, because the people go to the preachers too and they're like, you should have told us.
Yeah.
So the people who are falling away now following an individual, they're going to have that. It's just going to keep happening. So it's interesting though.
Okay. And where am I at here? The time has come for the last desperate struggle. Satan rushes into his army and tries to inspire them with his anger, and they've all turned against him. None acknowledge his leadership. Satan's power is at an end. Their rage is kindled against Satan, and with the fury of demons, they turn on him. Satan waged an information war, subverted God, and worked on the angels to turn them against God. And a third falls. God goes underneath Satan, uses information, and turns Satan's angels against. Sorry, a bunch of typos. Turns Satan's angels against his leadership. Alpha and Omega, these wars are the same. It's all an information war. It's all a subversion within. We are not in the final war now, but we are in the final war between the king of the north and the king of the south. We are in the final generation. The same principles that we saw in heaven with that war, we didn't just see in 2016. It's been the theme of our reform line from the time of the end. The same as the very first war and the very last war was 1989. The king of the north went below the attention of the king of the south and spoke directly to the subjects and turned the subjects against the government. That's the characteristics of 1989. And I'm not sure what methodology people are using to expect any other battle in our history, to expect nuclear weapons or any kind of attack, but you can be sure that they're not using the methodology developed by this movement. And that seems like a direct hit. In our last study, okay, we looked at the third Dynasty War, and it opens up with the Battle of Gabini. Antigonus defeats Eumenes, not in the battle, but as a result of the battle. As a result of the charge of the elephants over a dusty salt plain, such a cloud of dust arises that Antigonus was able to go behind Eumenes and take control of his wealth. And when he has control of his wealth, he can manipulate the subjects of Eumenes with an information war. He says, I have your wives and your children and everything that you've earned for the last 5 to 8 decades, and Eumenes is overthrown from the inside by his own subjects. So there it is again. All of that is the result of the work of elephants, which connect into our previous studies on the reform line of Pyrrhus. So this is a battle map of this Battle of Gabini. And we see Antigonus and Demetrius down here, and we'll go in a little bit to their ally Python. And Python essentially won this battle. If I understand it correctly, what happened, all the dust of the elephants created like a confusion and they couldn't really see what was going on. Python kind of went rogue on Antigonus and made his own decision and did something very risky and dangerous, but he sent half of his guys into the battle with the where all the dust and elephants and everything were. And then he sends kind of more like a little bit more of an elite force in behind to flank Eumenes' camp, which is where all their supplies and everything was, or I guess their camp or their city or whatever it was. I'm not exactly sure. And that essentially won the war. It was Python who kind of pulled it off, and so he's successful. So he did a good job. So where did I stop there? Have your wives, yada yada. If we connect threads and we believe that it is a firm rule of interpretation, we can identify the final methods of warfare, not with guns, but with information. So the elephants here are information. And yeah. So this is how the Third Diadochi War begins. Antigonus has two allies, Seleucus and Python. In this war, Seleucus had turned on Eumenes and attacked him. And Python had fought as a general within the army of Antigonus. So Antigonus has had two powerful allies. So I realized last night when I was looking at this chart, I was like, well, I don't see Seleucus anywhere. He wasn't there in the battle. But what Seleucus did was I forget exactly what it was. He sacked one of Eumenes' cities or something like that while this was going on. I read it last night and I forgot most of the details already. But the city was called Susa, S-U-S-A. So if anyone wants to know what happened with Seleucus, that's what he was doing, kind of off the scene. And Python had fought as a general. Okay. As this is just revision, we'll go straight to application. So this is the important point. This is what we all want to see. Why are we looking into these old wars? It's the application. So there's been an ongoing war between the United States and the Soviet Union. In these final days of warfare, the United States has had two allies. One was the Vatican, or the Papacy with John Paul II, and the second was the Mujahideen. This is in the context of the 10-year Afghanistan proxy war. For those who don't remember, it's the one from 79 to 89? And it's known as Operation Cyclone. And I put a little clip there on what Operation Cyclone is. It's a CIA kind of covert operation that was the code name. Prior to the Afghanistan, prior to and during the military intervention by the USSR in support of its client, the Democratic Republic of Afghanistan, the program leaned heavily towards supporting militant Islamic groups that were favored by the regime of Muhammad Zul-ul-Haq in neighboring Pakistan. So it was just basically the US were covertly aligning with these guys in Afghanistan to weaken Russia. So it was a proxy kind of thing going on. And so they would train up the Mujahideen to fight against the forces of the Soviet Union. And we know that the Mujahideen in 1996 overthrew the government of Afghanistan. By this time, they have changed their name from Mujahideen to the Taliban. So that's who these guys are. We saw that Antigonus, after this battle, starts to turn on his allies. And we talked about America's tendency to begin to act as a unilateral power and is commonly referred to as the global policeman. Antigonus starts to kill all the generals that are a threat to his rule. He considers himself the master of Asia or the master of the East. He kills Python, who has been his ally, and we connected that to 2001, the invasion of Afghanistan, the overthrowing of the Taliban. So I really wanted to, while I was making this presentation, I wanted to do it the way I did with my first one and build these lines. As I kind of went along, and it would have taken a lot of time, but this is the same chart that we've seen before. We've gone over this study, I think, twice now. Adriana did it, not last Sabbath, but the Sabbath before, with her own wording, I think. And then I think, was it Francisco also who has covered some of this stuff? All right.
He did Diadochi War on Monday after that Sabbath.
The Third Diadochi War. Okay, so this is the completed chart. We are gonna. I don't know how to have it on the screen the whole time because it kind of needs to be there. But trying to think how to do this. So anyway, we have the Battle of Gabini. This is the Third Diadochi War. This is where Python got killed, and that's kind of where we're at with that. And then we see the application. We don't see this middle line yet, so we can ignore that. We're seeing the application of this top line with our line, with our current line. So we have the Afghanistan War from 1979 to 1989. The USA defeats USSR. We're not quite where they take Iraq yet. But we see Russia weakening here. And so with this chart, as we all probably already understand, but what we want to do is I don't want to just go down one line and we're all kind of wondering, what does it all mean? It's better to look at a chart this way because we want to see the application of each thing that's happening in the other line, so we can take the first line and the second line that we have here, and then we're getting a combination of both of those things and it's being fulfilled in our line. So we see Antigonus, we see that there's these two strong allies right here, and this is the same thing that we see with the United States. We see Russia weakening here, and we see the same thing happening down here. You guys should have this chart in your email. I don't know if it helps to have it on your own screen to see it as we're kind of going along, because I can't really, I'll try to go back and forth, but I just wasn't organized enough to make it happen. Python killed Antigonus, starting to become a dictator, and we'll see the same things kind of happening here. And as we go along, this is the way you want to look at the chart to see the comparison as we go. And right now we're doing Third Diadochi in comparison to our line, and then afterwards we'll get into World War I. So I'll get rid of that screen, go back.
Thank you for doing such a nice chart, Jonathan.
No problem. Yeah, I wanted to separate all the colors because I had it all in black and white, and then it's just a white piece of paper with a lot of words all over the place, and it didn't make any sense to me. So hopefully it makes sense to you guys. Yeah, okay. So they're training up the Mujahideen. We've got the Taliban. We saw that Antigonus, after this battle, starts to turn on his allies. Did I already go through that? And we talked about America's tendency to begin to act as a unilateral power and is commonly referred to as the global policeman. Antigonus starts to kill all the generals that are a threat to his rule. He considers, okay, I've said all that. So we see Antigonus doing all these things. Now, I just want to note that the first major battle of that war was a battle of Mazar-i-Sharif, the fourth largest city in Afghanistan. So this is talking about the Afghanistan war in 2000. Is this the one in 2000? I think so. So the first major battle in that war was Mazar-i-Sharif, which is Afghanistan's fourth largest city, and was the first major defeat for the Taliban. Yes, it is that history, I think. You can see Antigonus beginning to act more and more as a dictator. So she's jumping back and forth between this top line and that bottom line. I really should have it in here, but so anyways, Antigonus is beginning to act more and more as a dictator, and this causes other generals to begin to fear him. Seleucus turns on Antigonus. At the Battle of Gabini, they're in an alliance, but shortly afterwards, it begins to break down almost immediately. It gets so bad that Seleucus joins with others on turning on Antigonus, on sending him an ultimatum. And so he's joining up with Cassander, Lysimachus, and Ptolemy. And we know that Ptolemy is the king of the south. So in 2003, certainly in this history, any alliance between the Vatican and the United States has disintegrated. And in 2003, the United States wants to invade Iraq, and they find their way is blocked by three allies: Germany, France, and Russia. And we know that Russia is the king of the south. So we can see this parallel here. We have Antigonus is the United States. We have Antigonus wants to go to a battle, but he's becoming quite threatening to his allies. So his allies kind of come together: Germany, France, and for the sake of this argument, we're going to say Russia is an ally. So they're the three. Well, I guess there are three allies. So they're allying more or less against the United States to prevent them from going into this war in 2003. So we're seeing this identical repeat of history here. So despite the ultimatum, Antigonus attacks Syria. This area that he attacks is not under the direct control of Ptolemy, but it is under his sphere of influence. And when the United States invaded Iraq in violation of this ultimatum, they attacked this sphere of influence of Russia. So we see the same thing happening, right? So Antigonus attacks Syria, which was Ptolemy's sphere of influence, and the United States is attacking Iraq, which was Russia's sphere of influence. And we read some quotes that demonstrated Russia's position with Iraq. Documents released by the CIA describe those early days of the Iraq War and the effort that Russia made to protect Saddam Hussein. They took any information that they could glean on American troop movements and funneled it through to Saddam Hussein. Antigonus attacked the sphere of influence of Ptolemy and is successful in that endeavor. He takes much of the territory down to Egypt, and he leaves his son Demetrius to guard that territory. Ptolemy now feels encouraged to reconquer that area of cold Syria that he had lost. He knows that Antigonus is distracted, and he gathered a large army and led it out towards Gaza, where Demetrius has been stationed. Demetrius ignores the advice of his counselors. He's facing in battle Seleucus and Ptolemy, two of the greatest generals of all time. But young Demetrius was determined to protect the territory, and the two forces clashed in the Battle of Gaza. In this battle, Ptolemy destroyed the army of Demetrius. It was a crushing defeat, and Demetrius was humiliated. Okay, so the location of Gaza is the same location as Raphia from Daniel 11, is sometimes referred to as the Battle of Gaza. We know at the Battle of Raphia, remembering that this is an information war, Russia defeats the United States. Okay, so maybe I should hop back to that other chart for a minute and just kind of see where we're at. So you guys can all see that chart? All right. So we have the ultimatum on the third Diadochi line. We have Cassander, Lysimachus, and Ptolemy, the three allies that are standing in front and basically blocking Antigonus. Antigonus attacks Ptolemy's sphere of influence, which was Col Syria. And then we have the Battle of Gaza, where Ptolemy defeats Demetrius. And this Battle of Gaza is also known as the Battle of Raphia. It's the same location, basically same thing. And coming down to the United States line, we're moving along. We have the United States invading Afghanistan. The ultimatum in 2003 from Germany, France, and Russia, preventing the United States from, or trying to prevent the United States from going into Iraq. United States goes anyway. We have the Iraq War. US is attacking the sphere of influence just like Antigonus did. And then we have the Battle of Raphia, where Russia defeats the United States. So we're hopping up into our present time here. Okay, so we'll go back. Am I losing anybody yet? It's gonna be a little quiz later, just so you all know, so if you're paying attention. I'm gonna pick on people, so. I keep losing my spot. Antigonus, okay, so we know the Battle of Raphia, remembering that this is an information war. Russia defeats the United States. Antigonus heads to meet his son. He has heard that there's a crisis. Ptolemy has marched north, and Antigonus begins to push back. Antigonus recaptures all the territory that has been lost right up to the borders of Egypt. We've talked about before about 1989 and the fact that the King of the North only goes up to the borders, but we have no evidence that the story changes. You only need to go to the borders to defeat your enemy. When the war is over a sphere of influence. Antigonus is in the position to take Egypt, and he probably would have, but he finds that he is facing two other enemies. Because of this battle, Seleucus feels free after Ptolemy's victory to take an army and march back up to Babylon and take back Babylon. So in this history, Babylon is retaken. Antigonus sees the threat from Seleucus, who wants to fight over Babylon, and he has one other problem: the Nabateans. Nabateans are the direct descendant of Ishmael. They come from the east and they start harassing Antigonus. So Antigonus decides to make peace with these three allies, so he can concentrate on the Nabateans, particularly with Seleucus. So it's getting kind of confusing. It's like 1 minute they're fighting, and the next thing you know, they're allied. And I guess this is just kind of the way. I mean, you don't have to go very far where we can see Russia and the United States are allied, and then they're enemies, and then they're allied and they're enemies. So this happens quite often. So if you think you're not following along properly, you are following along properly. It's just there's a lot of back and forth. The Nabateans are the direct descendant of Ishmael. They come from the east and start harassing Antigonus. Kind of said all that. And they conclude the Peace of the Dynasts is at this, it's at this peace treaty that Cassander feels threatened by the existence of Alexander's son or sons, I can't remember, and the decision of the generals of Alexander's empire would once be given back to his son. So Cassander orders the killing of Alexander's son and his mother Roxanne.
It's just one son.
What's that?
It's just one son.
Is it one? Okay. So yeah, so Cassander doesn't like the fact that I think, if I understand this correctly, he doesn't like the fact that he's gonna lose some of what he has to the son. I guess probably when he gets old enough, or
He was
going to
supposed
inherit
to take over
part of the
the
kingdom.
whole area of Alexander's region because he was the descendant of Alexander. And Tess says that this is when these generals were still pretended that they were just babysitting this guy until he was able to take over all of their territories.
So it was when he was old enough, he was supposed to inherit this stuff, right?
So when Cassander killed him, no one really cared because they're like, well, we get to have all this territory. We don't have to deal with him anymore. And I don't think he was all right in the head anyways. I think there was something wrong with him, if I remember right. But anyways, it wasn't like a big travesty to any of them.
Okay. It's here that you would mark the final end of Alexander's dynasty. Antigonus marches back to Babylon, and between 311 and 309 BC, he fights the Babylonian War with Seleucus. So let's go back here for a sec. So we have this chart. We have, you guys can see the chart again. Okay, Battle of Gaza. We have the Peace of the Dynas. We have, what was it, Antigonus coming up to the borders, or no, it was Seleucus coming up to the borders of Antigonus, I forget.
It was Antigonus and Demetrius.
Coming to the borders of who?
Of Ptolemy.
Ptolemy, that's right, King of the South.
Yeah.
So then we have the Nabateans and Seleucus down here. We have the Peace of the Dynas, which I really don't understand. So Peace of the Dynas, I think it was Antigonus allying with Seleucus and others so that they could take care of these Nabateans.
No, the Peace of the Dynas was the ceasefire between Antigonus, because Antigonus and Demetrius were fighting against Ptolemy, Cassander, and Lysimachus, the three allies. And so what they did is they made a peace treaty or a ceasefire so that Antigonus can go deal with Seleucus and the Nabateans.
Oh, so Seleucus was allied with the Nabateans. Okay, that makes more sense then. I get it now.
There was I don't think Seleucus was allied with the Nabateans. Seleucus went, because you have Seleucus and Ptolemy went to fight Demetrius when Antigonus left him there to take care of the area of Gaza. Seleucus and Antigonus went to fight him and they completely destroyed him. And Seleucus knew Antigonus was going to come back down to help his son out. And so he saw his quick escape to go back to Babylon and retake that region away from Antigonus. So he escaped real quick and went and took that. So you have a separate group, the Nabateans, that are wherever they are in different territories, annoying his locations, and you also have Seleucus who retook the region of Babylon, which was a huge sizable region, so Antigonus wanted that back. But he couldn't go deal with those two because he was fighting a war with these three allies, Ptolemy, Cassander, and Lysimachus. So he had to make a peace treaty with the three allies first, a ceasefire, so he could go deal with Seleucus and the Nabateans.
And that concludes our study for tonight. Any questions?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I don't know all that stuff. Okay, so after the Peace of the Dynasty, you have the Babylonian War. And just to make it all kind of make sense, I'm on the wrong thing here. I need to share something else. Where is it? Too many things open up here. One second. Here. Is this going to make any sense? Can you guys see this? It's kind of blurry. Tony, I'm depending on you. Yeah, you can see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit tiny.
It's a bit tiny. Let's see if we can make it. The bigger it gets, oh no, I think it's so blurry. Can you see it better now?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah,
Okay.
that's better.
So this is the 4 Diadochi Wars. Just so you have an idea, it goes from 323 to 301. This is Adriana's chart. And then we have the duration of these wars. And when we get down here, we have a little spell of time in between the 3rd and the 4th. And this is where the Babylonian War takes place, is right in between these two wars. And these are the two wars that we're going to realize are actually just one war with an armistice in the middle. So this chart helped me to better understand the 4 Diadochi Wars. Really simple, but just understanding their time frames and everything. Okay, so that's where the Babylonian War is that we're looking at on that big chart. And we'll go back to reading. Hard. Okay. So where did I get to? It's here that you would mark the final end of the Alexander's dynasty. Antigonus marches back to Babylon, and between 311 and 309 BC, he fights the Babylonian War with Seleucus. The conclusion of this is Seleucus gaining full control of Babylon. At the beginning of the Seleucid dynasty, the establishment of Seleucus. So Alexander's kingdom essentially comes to an end when basically the line is cut off and his son and his wife are killed. And yeah, so then we come into the Babylonian War, and this is where Seleucus takes control of Babylon. And so we brought that to our history, and we saw Seleucus also representing the king of the north, the papacy. And the papacy, and I know that's probably confusing because we're usually looking at Antigonus as the king of the north, but there's a lot of back and forth, and this is that time period that we're getting into, like Daniel 11 after, I think, this is after Raphia, so there's a lot of back and forth. We saw Seleucus also representing the king of the north and the papacy and the United States were allies in this war against the Soviet Union. The United States also utilizing the Mujahideen. The Soviet Union is defeated. The United States begins to act as a global superpower, unrestrained. That causes John Paul II to turn against the United States. They also turn on their allies. And we discussed the First and Second Iraq War in some detail. There is an ultimatum. 3 of those powers, Germany, France, and Russia, come together in a series of meetings and discuss. Is this really small? Can you guys see that? Did that change anything?
I can, now it's smaller.
Is it?
Well, wait a minute. No,
You got bigger.
I'm pinching it out though. So it
That's
looks
bigger
good
now.
Okay, I don't know
Nice.
how it works.
That's good.
Sorry, that was really tiny, and I was having a hard time reading myself. All right, so where'd we go? There's an ultimatum. Those 3 powers, Germany, France, and Russia, come together in a series of meetings and discuss how they're going to restrain the United States. They give America an ultimatum. If you try to invade Iraq, we'll block any legislation or proposition through the United Nations. The United States invades Iraq anyway. Iraq was under the sphere of influence to Russia. Regarding this invasion, Vladimir later said, "No one feels safe." And he's referring to from the power of the United States. And then he says, I repeat, no one feels safe. He was making a point about the activity of America. And the reason for that was because the United States just undermined the United Nations. So these were some of the pre-stages of them becoming a dictatorship.
That was in the time of Bush?
Yeah, this was George
Mhm.
W, the number 2, the son.
Oh, the son.
Yeah. This is the second Iraq War. So this is the one that's in 2003 after 9/11.
Okay.
So then we see the Battle of Raphia. The king of the south marches against the king of the north and defeats him, leading to Panium. The king of the north pushes back all the way to the border of Russia. They take back all of that sphere of influence. Then we see the reemergence of this power. And I put in brackets there Vatican. I don't know if she said Vatican, but whatever she was pointing to on the board at the time, that's what she was referring to, which has really baffled me lately because I've been trying to understand what is the papacy's role, as I'm sure we all have in the future. And it's kind of a question that keeps coming up. And she does allude to the fact that we will see a reemergence of the papacy. We're just not exactly sure what that's going to look like yet. Although we're getting a little bit here and there. So now when we study the counterfeit, we understood that there is 2 histories of failure and the histories of success. Down here. I shouldn't have did that. Now when we study the counterfeit, we understood that there are 2 histories of failure and the history of success. We could talk about ancient Israel. First of all, they come out of Egypt and they go into apostasy. Then they come out of Babylon and they become Pharisees. And then they go into captivity to Rome. So we have these three lines. We have a failure to fulfill their mission in Egypt. They failure to fulfill their mission in Babylon, and then they have a success in Rome. And this success looked completely different to what they had expected. So then we jump forward to modern Israel and we see three histories. The history of the Millerites, where they failed to fulfill their mission in 1844. They failed to fulfill their mission in 1888, and then they turned into Pharisees, which is nominal Adventism, I guess. And then we have success in 1989, the history of the 144,000. And this is the key component, completely different to what we were led to expect. So it's not what Adventists had always thought it was going to be. Modern Babylon has three histories. We have a failure in 1945, a failure in 1989, and then they have a success at the Sunday Law. Right? So 1989 is a history of failure for the papacy. And there are a number of reasons why they fail in this history. But one of the key reasons is that as soon as the Soviet Union begins to fall, before that fall is even completed, the United States has already discarded them as an ally. Do we think that the United States is going to willingly and easily relinquish any power? Hitler didn't. That's why 1945 was a failure. The papacy wanted power from Nazi Germany, and they had to fight Germany for it.
Jonathan?
Yep.
I have a question.
Sure.
So back up where the success is, that that's where you have in parentheses Rome. That's the cross, Christ dying on the cross, right?
Yeah, that's just the Christ line, I guess we'll call it.
Yeah. Okay, that was my only question.
Okay. Yeah, so that's the cross, that's our history, and then the Sunday Law. And 1989 is history of failure for the papacy. There's a number of reasons for it, but one of these key reasons is that as soon as the Soviet Union begins to fall, before the fall is even completed, the United States has already discarded the papacy as an ally. And do we think that the United States is going to willingly and easily relinquish any power? And so if we want to answer that question, we go backwards. Hitler didn't. That's why 1945 was a failure. The papacy wanted power from Nazi Germany. They had to fight Germany for it. No dictator is willingly gives power to another. 1989, the same dynamic. They fight for it, but they don't succeed to obtain it. I think that we can have a picture that because we think there is supposed to be an alliance, that they are all meant to be friends. But I would suggest that whatever it looks like, if the Vatican has power at the end of the world and they want some of that power to be surrendered by America, they would have to fight for it. We described the position of John Paul II on all of those wars. Then we spoke of the message he's been giving for the last few years. I don't know which period of time she's talking about because John Paul's been dead for a long time, but he's been saying that there are these people rising up giving speeches that resemble those of Hitler. He's a close counterfeit of our message. We need to understand more clearly, and I would suggest in a much more adult fashion, the role of the papacy at the end of the world. So there it is again, the papacy at the end of the world. So this is the Third Diadochi War. We talked about the third and the fourth as one war with an armistice in the middle. We taught the fourth, and now we've gone back and reviewed the third, and all of that leads us to the history of World War I and World War II. The Third and Fourth Diadochi War, like the First and Second World Wars, each are one war with an armistice in the middle. We've made application of World War II, but we need to investigate what we need to investigate is a thorough understanding of World War I. That would remind us of the triple application of prophecy. The first and the second equal the third. So if we want to understand in our history what it looks like, we take the history of 1844 and 1888. If we want to understand World War III, we understand the history of World War I and World War II. And that's the history that we're going to investigate for the rest of these presentations. We've already covered our reasons for investigating World War I in the first couple of presentations. There were a few causes of World War I. There is one primary catalyst that I want to note. It was in 1908, and it was known as the Bosnian Crisis. It was the Bosnian Crisis that sowed the seed for World War I. For this portion, I want to discuss the Bosnian crisis together with its application because it's a little bit complicated, particularly if it's your first time investigating this history. There's a little note there on what Bosnian crisis is, if you want to know. Okay. There's been a tension building throughout Europe, and there's been a series of revolutions. The king of Serbia, now Serbia is down here. This is Bosnia right here, and then this is Austria-Hungary. Obviously, you can see that. There's a series of revolutions. The king of Serbia was assassinated in a coup, and a pro-Russian government came into power. So Serbia is now pro-Russian, and they are also quite ambitious. If you were to look at a map of the region in that point of time, which we are doing, you find Serbia surrounded by some other regions and all identified as Slav. So this map is kind of cool because it actually has a lot of these places that were, I'm pretty sure that a lot of these were considered Slav. They're all kind of surrounding Austria-Hungary, but I guess they're also kind of surrounding Serbia. I don't know which countries of these are Slav. Adriana, is Romanian Slavic?
Yeah. Well, they're in that region. We're being considered Balkan countries. Yeah.
Okay, so is that what Slavic means? Because I know Romanian is Latin, right? Like they speak Latin, more or less.
No, it's partly that, and it's partly it sounds like a mix of Latin and Russian. And the closer you get to the Moldova border, we have more words that sound Russian and Ukrainian, and it's just white Eastern European things and people and stuff, and they differentiated after a while and got a little bit different, but at this time it was mostly that. There's debates, especially about some regions. It's long, it's a mess. It's a mess. That's all.
Jonathan, on the key, it says the Slavic allies of Russia are Serbia and Montenegro. So they're obviously Slavic too.
Yeah, that makes sense. So they're Slavic. And yeah, so we're going to get into it here in a second, but while we're looking at the map, let's get into it first and then we'll go back. So Serbia had the ambition to control all the Slav nations. So they themselves were Slav, but then they want to control everything, just like anyone else. In this history of World War I, we know that there were two sides. We have the Triple Alliance and the Triple Entente. The Triple Alliance was a failure. It consisted of Austria, Hungary, Germany, and Italy. And Italy did not back them in this war. We've already identified Germany as the king of the north in this history. I want to suggest that Austria-Hungary is a two-horned power, as you would see Medo-Persia, equally representative of the United States. It gives us a secondary perspective, another layer to this history. So before I move on, we'll just kind of have a look. So Russia, France, and the UK are the Triple Entente. And Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy are the Triple Alliance, just for reference. So as we discussed Germany and Austria-Hungary, we're going to see them both symbolizing the United States, adding two different layers of information, if it wasn't confusing enough for you already. So this actually helps, though. I think if you can actually see the chart at the same time you're reading this, it makes a lot more sense that way too. There's growing tension between Austria-Hungary and Serbia. And
Can I make a correction real quick? Because I'm looking at a different map and it looks like Slavic countries are literally everything else except for Romania.
Okay.
Like that is the weirdest. Anyways, sorry. I just wanted to correct that.
No, that's good. So there's growing tension between Austria-Hungary and Serbia, and Austria-Hungary feels the need to restrain the ambition of Serbia. So you have this area of Austria-Hungary, and you have Bosnia-Herzegovina, and you have Serbia. So again, this is Bosnia down here, this is Serbia, and this is Austria-Hungary. Yeah, this area of Austria-Hungary, you have Bosnia-Herzegovina, and you have Serbia. Serbia had hopes to control the region of Bosnia and Herzegovina, but wanting to restrain Serbia, Austria-Hungary marched down and took control of Bosnia in 1908. This infuriated Serbia. Now, they had been fighting an economic war for some time. Austria-Hungary had been attempting to control Serbia through their economy. Serbia becomes so angry that Austria-Hungary have taken over Bosnia that they appeal to their parent, Russia, their powerful ally, the big bear standing behind the tiny Serbia. This was 1908, and Russia was not doing well. They had just fought a war with Japan, which they lost, and they also were facing a revolution, the revolution of 1905. So Russia is backing Serbia, but because they just lost the war and they've experienced an attempted revolution, attempted because they didn't succeed in overthrowing the government, they tell Serbia that they aren't powerful enough to protect Serbia's interests, and this sowed the seeds of war. There were a few consequences. In this 1908 conflict, the Bosnian Crisis, Austria-Hungary learned that they had the full support of Germany, so they began to act more recklessly. Italy becomes disgusted with that alliance, which caused them not only to support that alliance, but the two greatest results were the humiliation of Russia. They couldn't protect their own allies, so they said, we'll never let this happen again. Next time will be war. And the second result was Serbia became much more determined to oppose Austria-Hungary. And some of them within Bosnia began to organize a terrorist organization known as the Black Hand. So the Black Hand was a secret military society formed in 1901 by officers in the army of the Kingdom of Serbia, best known for being allegedly involved in the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo, and the earlier conspiracy to assassinate Serbian royal couple in 1903 under the aegis of Captain Dragutin Dimitri something. So the Black Hand, and their purpose was to restrain Austria-Hungary. So now I want to look back at the application now, because this information might be lost on you before we call all the way back. I don't know what she's saying there. Let's head back into the history of 1990 to 1991. Let's not, actually, let's go back to the chart for a second. So, where is it? Okay, so we've got a lot more filled in here. And remember, we're actually coming into the third line here. So we had the Bosnian crisis, which lines up with the Battle of Gabini, which lines up with the fall of the Soviet Union, if I'm correct. Python being killed lines up with June 28th. I don't know, is that when Franz Ferdinand was killed? I can't remember. And it also lines up with June
28th is the Serbia went into Bosnia Herzegovina, because it was July that Franz Ferdinand.
That's what I thought it was a month later, and I think I've got that somewhere. So this was the invasion of Bosnia.
Well, you have assassination of Franz Ferdinand under there.
No, but there's two things going on. That's where she had it on her line. So that's this is the mark that she has, June 28th. There was no line for July, whatever it was, a month later. Oh, there is over here. But that's where she had assassinated for.
I thought, why did I think it was August when they invaded? No, but that's right. It was a month apart, exactly. Perfect. It's all good.
Okay. So these three are lining up. Afghanistan is lining up with this event here. We have a terrorist attack that caused the invasion of Afghanistan. We have a terrorist attack, the killing of Franz Ferdinand, the Archduke, which are the catalysts here. And these are allies. I'm trying to understand how it works, because Python was killed. He was an ally to Antigonus, and this was a step towards him becoming a dictator. The US invades Afghanistan. Afghanistan was their ally, so that's what it was. The Taliban were their ally, and now they're doing the same thing that Antigonus did when Antigonus killed Python. So you can see the pattern here. And then, so the reason why these are in two different sections, because the terrorist attack is coming from this line. I don't know. Anyway.
What do you mean?
Well, I'm just lining up. So World War I, the reason why we have terrorist attack is because, like down here where I have a yellow box and then this written out on the outside, I can't remember what frame of mind I was. Well, that's what she had, but why it made sense. So the terrorist,
So
like I
the,
said before, you have one line. You're taking characteristics of one line comes down, and the characteristics of the second line. So and it makes the overall characteristics of the third line. I'm just trying to make a very simple point. I'm making it very complicated.
yeah.
So yeah, the terrorist attack is brought down, which lines up with 2001, and then also the killing or the defeating of your own allies, which comes down and makes this whole thing happening that's going on down here, where the U.S. invaded their ally in Afghanistan, and it was due to a terrorist attack. Okay, so ultimatums. I don't know how far I should go here. I think we're good. We can go back to the document. There's a bunch of stuff going on in chat. If there's anything important, let me know. Trying to figure out the share screen thing. Next time I'm going to be way more organized, I hope. Okay. Now I want to look at this application because this information might be lost. Oh yeah, whatever she said there. Let's head back into the history of 1990-91. You have a two-horn power, the United States. There are two other smaller independent countries, Kuwait and Iraq. Iraq is ambitious. They look at the Middle East, their brethren, whether it's Iran or Saudi Arabia, and they have ambition to have authority over the whole region. But the United States intervenes. When Iraq attempts to overthrow Kuwait, the United States marches in and takes control of the whole country. So if you guys remember the New World Order study that we did last week, we covered most of that and exactly what happened there. So who is Iraq's ally? Russia. Was Russia strong enough to respond? No, because they just lost the war, the Cold War, and they had just experienced the 1989 revolution. So the exact same thing is happening to Russia, which is interesting because they said never again. But here it is happening again. So when you come to 1990-91, Russia is not going to defend the interests of their ally. In 1979, we mark this 10-year history from 79 to 89. In 1979, there's a revolution in Iraq that turns it into a pro-Russian country. It already had been, but this was the rule of Saddam Hussein, and he allies closely with Russia. From 1979, he's extending his influence over the Middle East. The United States sees this as a threat. When Iraq tries to take over Kuwait, the United States responds by taking over the region. And ever since Kuwait has become a dependent subject of the United States and depends on the United States for protection. So we've connected the Austria-Hungary, and it's becoming involved in the actions of Serbia and Bosnia. It's trying to economically control Serbia, and the United States is becoming involved in the interactions between Kuwait and Iraq. Connected with this is the attempts to economically control Iraq. Serbia has a powerful ally, but that ally, Russia, cannot defend them against Austria-Hungary because they've just lost a war and they're still suffering from an intervention, an internal revolution. Iraq cannot be defended by Russia because they just lost the war and they're still suffering from an internal revolution. So this, let's say that twice. So this history of the Bosnian Crisis, Austria-Hungary takes over a sphere of influence from Serbia and Russia can't respond. So there is another chart there. Let me share this thing again. And did I put it on here? Yeah. So this is what we're looking at here. This is the parallel. Austria-Hungary going in to invade Bosnia. They have basically economic control of Serbia, and Russia, who recently lost to Japan and had a recent revolution, were too weak to defend their ally, Serbia. Likewise, we have the United States attacking Kuwait. Iraq, who is the ally to Russia, is under economic control to the United States, and exact same thing happening again. They recently lost the Cold War. They recently had a revolution in 1989. So again, they're too weak to defend their ally, Iraq. And the King of the North succeeds again. So that's what we're kind of looking at, and that's in your notes. All right. We're getting close to the end here, almost quiz time. So when you come to 1990, 91, Russia is not going to defend their interest. Did I already say that? I did. I said most of this. Oh yeah, the last line. In the history of 89 to 91, we see the United States takes Iraq's sphere of influence. Kuwait and Russia are too weak to respond. Out of this conflict, a terrorist organization forms in its history, the Bosnian Crisis. We call it the Black Hand. In its history, she's looking at the chart when she's saying this. So in this history, we call it Al-Qaeda for the Taliban. So if we go back to a little chart, which isn't there. Where'd it go? I lost it. It's not here somewhere. All right, so we have, where's Al-Qaeda? I don't even know if it's on this chart. Black Hand, okay, so there it is. Black Hand was the terrorist organization and Al-Qaeda. All right, sorry this is really scrambled, but I had a hard time putting all this together. So we're gonna ask some questions. I'm gonna get rid of this, and I'm gonna pick on people specifically, and you're all gonna get a question, at least one. I hope you guys are paying attention, and if you don't have a microphone, you have the chat, and we are going to wait for you. So, all right.
You mean we can't say pass?
You cannot say pass, and I'm going to make it really awkward and embarrassing for people who try to.
Have mercy on me. I'm doing other things.
Yeah, excuses.
I am.
Okay, we're going to start with, all right, Elaine, can you answer the very first easy question, and then I'll leave you alone. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
A real easy one, because I've been working on the schedule for rescue.
Yep. It's just very quick answers. So what battle led up, I didn't even word this right. What was the battle that led up to the Third Diadochi War?
Okay, I can't say I understand everything, but I do remember it. It's Battle of Gibby. I don't know how to say it. G. It starts with a G.
Yeah, Battle of Gibini. Good job.
Thank you.
Go back to work.
That doesn't mean I understand it all. I do remember that, though.
Did people just leave?
One.
All right.
They ran away.
That's all right.
Next.
People are running away. People actually.
Very good. We need to do this anyways. It's very good.
Okay. Next in line, Adriana, you're going to get an easy question because I don't want to answer in the hard ones.
Knows everything. Don't give her
Man,
some.
she used to get the hard ones.
Yeah,
No, because this is she already knows all the stuff. I told her I was going to skip her anyway. Maybe I will just skip her. Yeah, I'll skip her. I'm going to skip you, Adriana. Sorry, you're the backup, remember?
When anyone needs to call a friend, I'm here.
Okay. So who are we going to? Tony, you get a relatively easy question. Who fought who in the Battle of Gibini?
Who fought who? I'm going to say Antigonus.
Okay, you got one. Who did he fight?
He fought against. He was with Demetrius so Seleucus.
Nope.
Oh, I know that one.
But you do get
I get half of one.
No, you keep going.
Oh,
So you get extra points for recognizing that he fought with Demetrius. Or allied. Right, so extra points.
Okay, so there's Ptolemy, but
This is before Ptolemy. So remember elephants. Remember the battle chart that we looked at. The guy had a funny name. They all do.
oh, can I get my notes? I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know. What's the alphabet?
All right. If anyone wants to answer, you can put your hand up in the chat. No yelling out.
Iminis.
All right. Okay, you're cheating, but we'll let you have it.
Gave me the notes.
Okay, so who's next here? I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your name. Chen Yu Leng? Sounds about right.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you have a microphone. And you're getting a relatively easy question also. Are you with us?
Let me see chat.
I know you're there. Okay, we will wait 5 minutes, and if she doesn't say anything, we'll go on to the next one. No pressure.
Give it.
Yay!
I knew it.
I'm walking out the side.
Okay, so you're not okay. So I'll ask the question,
Uh-huh.
and if you can't answer, then we'll go on to someone else. But thanks for turning your mic on. So, what caused Eumenes to lose the battle? Do you remember?
Elephant.
Okay,
What?
so
What
what
did you
particularly about the elephants?
particular?
What was it that the elephants did?
Information.
Okay, that's what elephants mean. But how did the elephants help? How did the elephants cause Eumenes to lose? If you remember what happened.
In the
Maybe-
literal battle.
I don't remember.
In the literal battle, yeah.
Huh?
Okay.
Oh.
So you don't remember? Okay, so you got most of it. You get points. I'm not really keeping score anyway. Who has? Okay, so Debbie's just throwing out answers without putting her hand up, which is all right, I guess. They got excited and they charged. No, or maybe I don't know. I don't know about that. Internal defeat from Jackie.
Yep.
Yeah. So
He got overthrown by his own people. Yeah, right?
Well, yeah, it was a series of events that led up to it. So basically what happened, if I understand correctly, and Adriana's here to correct me, the dust of the elephants created confusion. The information created confusion, if you want to think of it that way, which allowed for Python to flank them, steal their supplies, and essentially what happened was the people turned on their leader. Is that kind of, Adriana, is that just
I
the
have
rough?
something to say.
Antigonus, go ahead, Tony.
I just want to say it wasn't just supplies. Actually, it was everybody's belongings.
Everything. Yeah,
It was
everything.
you owned.
What wives, children, inheritances for 5 to 8 decades, whatever. It was like everything. You're right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the battle actually ended in a draw, but what Antigonus did is he gave an ultimatum to the Silver Shields, and he said, give me your leader or you're never getting everything you have back. And by this time, the Silver Shields were in their 60s. They were old men, and that was everything they had accumulated over the years. So they gave Eumenes up super quick that same night, because it was that night, the same night of that battle when it ended, because Eumenes said, okay, I'm going to finish Antigonus tomorrow. I'm not drawing this.
Okay.
Yeah, you're going overboard,
You might
girl.
spill over. But I do have a question. Did the Silver Shields get their stuff back?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't see this anywhere. She didn't say anything about it, so I was wondering.
This is, you wouldn't know this. This is background information, so I'm going to say it because I don't think you're going to cover it in your questions. But later on, there were other battles, and the Silver Shields were wanting to see if they could ally with Antigonus. But he ended up, I think, killing them because he's like, no, you guys already showed that you're disloyal to Eumenes, so I don't need you. It was messed up. But, yeah.
Okay. So next question, who we got here? Christine or Francisco? You're on here twice, so I don't know which one's which. Christine is probably the first one there. You're getting a question. Are you there?
I am here, yes.
Okay, perfect.
And I knew all the other answers, but I know this was going to be hard.
Okay, if you're not, can everyone else just mute their mic? No, I don't want people throwing out answers or giving away. Okay. Christine, is this the one I want? Oh, this is too easy. Okay, I'll give you the easy. I know you can do a harder one, but who were the two allies of Antigonus in the Third Diadochi War?
To Antigonus was Seleucus and Python?
Yeah.
That was the second.
I'm going to give you another one.
Okay.
What's that?
It was the second Diadochi War.
That's not what's in the notes that I have.
The battle with Eumenes was the second Diadochi War. The third Diadochi War was Antigonus fighting against Ptolemy, Cassander, and Lysimachus. Seleucus was a
The
general.
battle of Eumenes.
Huh?
I'm looking at his chart right now, and it's Antigonus defeats Eumenes in the Third Diadochi War, with Seleucus and Python were
Yeah, that's what I.
for
The whole thing was the Third Diadochi War. There was nothing about the Second Diadochi in that.
The Second Diadochi War was the battle with Eumenes, with Antigonus and Eumenes.
On the chart, she has Third Diadochi War is the first line, and the Battle of Gabini is the first battle. Is that not?
Yeah, but that was the battle leading up to the line of the Third Diadochi War. The Third Diadochi War itself, if you look back in the history, is between Antigonus and Demetrius fighting against Ptolemy, Cassandra, and Lysimachus, because it's with them that he had to have an armistice so he could go fight Seleucus and the Nabateans, and then he came back and fought them again in Diadochi War 4. Do you see what I'm saying?
But that's not anything that's what's on the chart, and I saw the presentation too. So
okay, well, you guys, I mean, I know what I know. You guys can look it up, so I'm just gonna leave it.
Oh, we don't. Okay, she's right. That's the battle that led up to the Third Diadochi War. I think that's correct. It's the one that started the Third Diadochi War, because that's what she stated in the very beginning, I guess, was the war that led up. So it was the end of the second, beginning of the third, however.
So why don't we restate that so that in case anybody else had trouble following, I want to make sure too. It's a battle that she's talking about, a battle that led up to. So which is the Battle of Gabini? Gabini, is that the first of the Third Diadochi War?
The Battle of Gabini is the last battle of Diadochi War 2.
Oh,
it joins them together, because there was no, even between the second and the third, there was no period of time in between them, was there?
There was a little bit. The thing is that what the battle between that battle represents the end of the Cold War. Okay? Do you see what I'm saying? It was its own war in the past, but 1989 was the final battle that ended that war. And we put it on our line as a start. But it's the end of a battle. And it's the end of an empire.
Okay. So when I'm looking at the Diadochi Wars, I don't know if I'm wrong in understanding it this way, but I don't, it's basically, it's one continuous war, but isn't it the different, where you're breaking them into different Diadochi Wars, isn't it just who's fighting who?
Yes.
So it's kind of just a long war. It's where things are just kind of a little bit back and forth. And then there's the only break is where the Babylonian War is.
The Diadochi Wars, if you remember back when where Sister Tess was explaining, the Diadochi Wars were mostly all centered around kind of Antigonus, because Antigonus was trying to do the same work that Alexander was, but he wasn't successful. That's why we skip all 4 of those wars when we go to Daniel 11. But this is just Antigonus fighting different people at different times, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And all that is in our first presentation.
Yeah, and so what happens in Diadochi War 1 and 2 is Antigonus amasses his great wealth and power, and what happens at the end of Diadochi War 2, as you can see where you have on that line, superpower, that's where Antigonus becomes the superpower because he defeats Eumenes, and that's where the United States defeats Russia or the USSR, and it becomes the sole superpower, and that's where they both start acting like dictators. And the Diadochi War 3 is where now Antigonus
I don't make it too confusing. Like I know.
Does the Third Diadochi War start after this Battle of Gabini?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because and actually there's a good, in this time period from 315 to 314, what happens is Antigonus starts acting like a crazy person, and Seleucus goes to Ptolemy and tells him what's happening. When Seleucus does that, their allyship ends. So now you have those 3 allies coming together up against Antigonus. So now he's fighting a different war against 3 other people in Diadochi War 3 against the 3 allies. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Where was I? Who's next here? No, Christine got an easy question, although it wasn't completely accurate because I misrepresented it. I'm going to ask you another one, Christine.
Lucky you.
Hey? I'm picking on her because I know she knows more. So who are the United States' two allies in their war with the Soviet Union?
Okay, that's a little bit harder. But I should know these. Oh my goodness, brain fade, because I know the answer to that.
I know you know this one too. So the United States' two allies with the Soviet. We know one of them for sure. I think 1989.
So that would be, I can't even think of it. Brain fade.
Can I give a hint?
Are we thinking
No, Adriana.
during 1889?
Yeah, I think 1989. No hints, you guys. Let her think it through. She knows it.
So maybe the Vatican and and the Mujahideen.
Bingo, you got them both. Perfect.
Okay.
Well, see, I knew you'd get it. I did. The whole point of asking the questions is I don't want to rush to an answer. I want people to kind of think it through so that we're not just hearing information. We're actually having to think about it.
Gotcha.
So it's a good job. You got both your questions dead on. Who's after? Is it Debbie? Debbie, it's your turn. Okay.
Oh, great.
I know you know the answer already. Antigonus killed certain generals that are a threat to his rule, i.e. Python. What do we connect that to in the US line?
And you see, I was ready to give the name Python.
That wasn't the question.
Yeah, right. Okay, in the US line.
I think what is the parallel? Who Antigonus killing certain generals, what is that? What is he doing? He's breaking an alliance, right?
Right.
So who did the US break an alliance with? We did look at it on the chart. It's not super obvious.
So is this the part where they're, sorry, Jonathan, repeat the question again.
So Antigonus killed certain generals that are a threat to his rule,
right,
i.e. Python. What do we connect that to in the US line? Just so you don't get confused by that question though, is the people that the ally that we connect that to on the US line weren't really a threat to the US's rule.
I thought they were.
They weren't, not directly. They were not a threat to anybody directly, really. Well,
Not at that way, Mark. They were, weren't they?
well, that way, Mark, I guess they were, but okay, maybe I guess you can say they were. Depends on how you look at it.
I'm probably absolutely out to lunch, but I'll say the Vatican.
Nope, not the Vatican. They essentially were part of the last answer of the last question. That Christine just had.
Saudi Arabia or?
No. So what was the answer to the last question? The last question was, who are the United
Mahajin Jadin.
Okay, and who are they?
Well, that's what I'm trying to remember. I was thinking of that. I've seen that on your chart.
Yeah.
But I was trying to remember who they were.
So we're going down the US line. We're who were the Mujahideen? The United States trained up the Mujahideen, and then they changed their name.
I got it.
I know you all do.
I got that name.
Jackie, you go ahead.
No.
Well, it's the Taliban.
Okay. You
Oh, is it the Al Qaeda? Al Qaeda.
No, it was Taliban.
Oh, it was Taliban.
Al Qaeda was the terrorist organization, like the Black Hand.
True.
Okay.
Okay.
Good working it out, though. No more jumping in, Jackie. All right. How many questions do I have? I've got a few more. Antigonus begins to act more and more as a dictator. Who am I asking here? Who's next here? Flucus, the Flucus family. You got your mic?
Yes.
Right on. Okay, I think this is the question. So Antigonus begins to act more and more. I'm trying to find out if this is actually the question I have. No, it's not. Okay, so what alliance of the United States is disintegrated by the 2003 Iraq War? Kind of hard questions. Your mic's not on if you're answering.
Can you repeat and enlarge that question, please?
Did you say repeat and enlarge the question?
Yes.
That was awesome.
That is good.
Yes, you get half a point for that one. What alliance of the United States is disintegrated by the 2003 Iraq War? Your mic is probably off again. Yeah. You have to be on the mic. I want to hear you reason it out, talk it out. Okay.
Like the alliance with Germany, France, and Russia?
Nope. Good guess though, but no.
Can I give a hint?
Yeah. Because this one's kind of hard.
Who were they in alliance with in 1989? The United States.
Jackie, stop throwing things out there. You'll get your question.
Was that too bad of a hint, or was that?
No, that was a good one. That's because I think this was a hard question just because of the
Lucas
year.
family. So who was the US
already?
Sorry, what did you say?
I said I've answered the questions already.
No, you didn't answer the question, but no more of that. You'll get your question. I'm gonna save the hardest one for you, Jackie. Flucus family, do you have an answer? Your mic is off. For the sake of time. I still have a whole nother presentation to do. If you guys aren't there, you're not, okay, I guess they're not answering. Who's the next one? Francisco. You'll get this one and I'll give you another one too.
Vatican.
Oh, God, Lucas family jumps in right at the end.
Yeah, but Francisco said it. He gets the point.
Yeah.
What did they say? Did they say the right answer?
I didn't hear. I just heard him jump in and start saying something, and then he talked.
You guys want another question? If you do, you have to keep your mic on.
We'll take another question.
Okay.
Keep your mic on, though.
Keep your mic on, though, because you have to talk through it. That's the whole point. Which three allies blocked the United States' way into battle with Iraq? Oh, this is an easy one.
Germany, France, and Russia.
Okay, and who was Russia?
What do you mean, who was Russia?
Who was Russia?
Well, he's the king of the South.
There you go. You nailed it. Good job. All right. They were pretty easy questions. All right, who's next? Francisco, I'm giving you another one. Despite the ultimatum, Antigonus attacks Syria. Who and what was Syria?
The USA.
No.
Oh, that was Syria.
Oh, Assyria?
Syria. Not Syria.
Syria.
Our line you're asking, right? You're asking for our line?
Repeat the question, please.
Okay, I'll expand on the question because I'm not talking about our line either. Despite the ultimatum, Antigonus attacks, I think it was referred to as Coal Syria. Who and what was Syria? Now, when I'm asking that question, I'm not asking who they are in our line. I should have clarified. I'm asking who were they in Antigonus's line.
Like what Coal Syria represented?
There's spirits of influence.
Yeah, to who? Or whose sphere of influence were they?
They would probably be to. I was just reading that. It slips my mind. I don't know.
It's one of two people.
It'd probably be Antigonus.
The other guy.
King of the North, King of the South.
You guys.
Sorry.
So is it Seleucus?
No. You got one more option.
It'd be Ptolemy then.
There you go. Ptolemy. So yeah, sphere of influence. Ptolemy.
Right, they're bringing the like hands-on.
So it was, yeah, so Antigonus was the king of the north and Ptolemy was the king of the south, and the king of the north moved in on one of their spheres of influence, and it was representing, who was Cole Syria representing? Bonus question. Wow, I think I lost half the people here. It's all right.
I still have 10.
So do you know who they were?
Are you asking now in our line?
If for the bonus question, yeah, who are they now on our line? And that continues to Francisco.
Okay, so if they represent Ptolemy, king of the south, is
Be
that
Russia.
Russia?
Yeah.
So who Ptolemy is king of the south, and that's Russia. So who is Cole Syria? I think I know this. I might actually have it wrong in my head.
The Afghanistan.
No.
No.
No, isn't it just Syria? Isn't it the same?
No.
Or is it Iran?
No, you're close though with the first one. You just have to think long enough.
Because there is a Syria now, right?
Yeah, there's still Syria, but it's not Syria.
Oh, would it
Think
be
along the Afghanistan line though. It's not Afghanistan. It's
Iraq, because we got Iraq War.
Iraq War.
Am I right, Adriana?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Iraq. So Iraq.
Bingo, you got it.
Awesome.
All right, Jackie, hang on here. Find a hard one. All right. All right, Jackie, you're getting this one. Since you're so eager. You have your mic, Jackie?
Yeah, my mic's on.
All right. I have a long answer, but you don't need a long answer. Why did the papacy fail in World War II and in 1989? There's a number of reasons, but we're looking for the primary.
So we're talking about John Paul at that time.
In 1989, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. It was John Paul that was the Pope at that time.
Yep.
And
so you have two lines that you're looking for, right? You have why did they fail in World War II and why did they fail in 1989? Essentially, it's the same reason. So don't be too specific about who is who.
I want to say in alliance with the King of the North.
Okay, but that didn't cause them to fail. What caused them to fail?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't even know that one.
Huh.
I'm looking at the answer though, but I won't give it since I'm cheating.
I'm looking at the answer too.
Hitler was a dictator and the Vatican wanted more power, but they had to fight Germany to get it.
Are you cheating?
They didn't win.
Are you cheating, Debbie?
No.
Okay.
And in 1989, the USA wasn't going to give up any power, and the Vatican wanted more power from the USA, but in a sense, they, quote unquote, had to fight them.
Yeah, quote unquote. And how that looks for the Vatican, I have no idea, but they failed nonetheless. All right. Who didn't get a question? Susan. All right, Susan, you still awake?
Oh, I'm here, but I got my dunce cap on.
Oh, that's good. Don't need it.
I traded mine with you Susan.
We all
Honestly, I'm at the back of the class.
We all traded our tinfoil hats for dunce caps, eh?
Yes.
Okay.
Good one.
You guys all get that or not? Let's see here. Who does the United States attack and who? Okay, I don't know if I like that question.
They're all going to be hard for me.
Okay, what were ancient Israel's 2 failures and 1 success? Explain them a little bit.
2 failures and 1 success. So the first failure for ancient Israel was Moses's line. Is that what you mean?
This is kind of a weird question because wait, is it? Yeah, no, this is it. Yes, you're right. Moses' line.
Moses's line.
And what happened after? Why was Moses' line a failure?
Because they didn't go into the promised land. Well, Moses didn't go into the promised land. Would that be why?
But why did these Israelites not go into the promised land?
Because they lacked faith. But you want something different. I know. I don't have it.
You're right. You're not wrong. Okay, so they left Egypt, and then what happened? They went into
the wilderness. Huh?
Yeah, we'll accept that. They went into apostasy.
Oh, okay. I see what you say. Yeah.
What was the next?
The backsliding, I guess, and they never make it out, right?
You were right in all your answers. Just she had it worded differently to make her point. So, what was the next line of failure?
Okay, so Christ was the line of success. The next line of failure, would that be, are you talking modern then? Modern Israel?
No, we're still in ancient Israel. Ancient Israel has 2 failures and 1
2 failures. The second failure for ancient Israel. I'm sorry, can I phone a friend? I know it's probably very simple, but honestly, I just can't remember.
No, it's all right. Adriana is your friend.
Okay.
Your friend, because she doesn't get questions. She'll answer.
It's when Ezra came back, they were supposed to rebuild, but that history ended up in Pharisees.
In Pharisees?
Yeah, that's what Sister Tess puts it in. She says that history, when they came out of Babylon, that turned into Pharisees.
So Susan.
What do you mean? What do you mean that turned into Pharisees?
Because they were supposed to be the city of God and his people and supposed to act correctly, but instead they went back to cold, dead formalization.
I get it. Thank you. Okay.
So the first mistake they made, Susan, which country did they leave? Which place did they leave? They left. Where did Moses take them out of?
Egypt.
Okay, and then they went into apostasy. And then what's the next place that they left?
Babylon.
Babylon. And then what did Adriana say they turned into?
Pharisees.
Okay, now what's the next place that they go to? Or what's the next place that they're basically in captivity to?
Pharisees. So it would be, oh gosh, I don't know. I don't know. You mean Pharisees, the Pharisaical thinking?
You just had Egypt and Babylon. What's the next? You know the line of success.
Line of success? Yeah. Oh God, I don't know why I'm having such a hard time. Christ line. So what do they do next?
Well, just think. You had Egypt, you have Babylon, and in Christ's line you have
Jerusalem.
No, think how does Jerusalem equal Egypt and Babylon?
Oh.
Egypt and Babylon, and then at the time of Christ, you have?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
A 4-letter word, and it's a place.
Who was rolling over them, Susan?
Who was, Pharaoh. No. Oh, I don't know.
Christ's
time. Think about it. You know this.
Who was rolling over them? The Romans, you mean?
Yeah, bingo, you got it.
Oh, modern. Okay, Rome. How stupid I am, huh?
You had
No,
Egypt.
no.
No, no, you're not stupid at all. No, it's these little things that just kind of escape our mind, our memory.
It
I'm
took us a while
looking
to
at the
get
answer. So, like, I would have been just like you. I'm looking at the answer right now. That's why I know. So what was unique about their line of success?
What was unique about the line of success?
About the line of success during Christ?
Unique about it?
Yeah. If you want to pass on that, I'll ask you even another question, which I think you'll zip through, and then you'll know the answer to that one.
No, I wouldn't be so sure. I don't know. I'll pass.
Okay, we're gonna pass on. That's part 3 of that question. I'm gonna grill you because I'm.
Oh, Jonathan, no.
No. This is all right. It's all right because it all has to do with the same thing. Okay, so we just looked at ancient Israel. Now we're gonna look at modern Israel. All right. Got your modern Israel cap on?
I hope so.
Okay, so what was the first line of failure in modern Israel?
So that would be the Millerites.
Give me a year.
1844?
You got it. So what was the second failure of modern Israel? Give me a year.
Then it would be would it still be the Miller? Oh, yeah, it would still be the Millerites. Would it be 1888?
1888, no longer Millerites. We'll call them the Adventists, Seventh-day Adventists.
Oh, okay, because 1863. Yes, okay.
And what happened? Okay, so when you wouldn't get that. Okay, so
how do you know?
Well,
I'm just kidding.
I know I probably wouldn't because it's just I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, you get it when you see it, but when it's not there, it might take you a while. Okay, so the line of success for modern Israel, give me a year.
The line of success for modern Israel, then it would be 1989, right?
And that's the history of the 144,000. There's something unique about the line of Christ and the line of the 144,000 in how it's perceived by God's people. You know what that unique thing is? How is it perceived by God's people? The success.
By God's people.
Yeah, so think the line of Christ. What made
you mean they see it differently than what it really is?
Yeah, so it was different than what they thought it was going to be, right?
Yeah.
So that's what it is. So that's what their line of success. So the success in the line of Christ was, if I understand it properly, was the cross, and they didn't expect that to be the way it was going to win, the way it was going to go, right? Am I right with that, Adriana? Is it the cross? That was their victory, but they didn't really. That's why
I don't remember what you're talking about. What she was talking about this. Honestly, that was like over my head, so I don't remember this.
So success looks completely different than what we're led to expect. So if we look at all the messages that have been coming out in the Midnight Cry, it's requiring change in each one of us. So we're on a line of success, but it's not what we thought it was when we were nominal Adventists. The Sunday law changed. We're getting different perspectives about things like women's ordination, about equality and all this stuff. So if you asked any of us a year ago what we thought was going to happen this year or anything like that, we wouldn't have been able to guess. And I'm sure it keeps going like that all the way through until Sunday law or Daniel 12:1. So
it really has shut my mouth in a lot of ways, because I used to think I knew some things, and now I feel like I don't know anything. I feel like I shared all wrong things with people when I was trying to help people learn the truth.
But remember,
you know what I mean?
God knew we were going to do that, though. We were carrying the truth that we thought was truth at that time. He didn't make a mistake. So we have to have faith in that God knew we were going to make that mistake, and that we are going to have to humble ourselves, and God is going to give us the way to correct that. So we all did it, right? Like I was thinking of that, like November 9th. And we all went out and told people about November 9th when that came out. And then we're like, oh, Russia's going to attack the United States, and it's going to be like this obvious thing. And then we had a little bit of correction to do. And now we're realizing that the people that we told November 9th to, they're probably not going to see what we see, because it's taken a lot of studying and a lot of, paying attention to the world events to actually understand what happens and what's not going to necessarily happen just on November 9th. We're already in it, as Tess has told us.
Doesn't it make you feel like you don't want to say anything yet, though, because
That might
it's
be what God's
developing, and so you have to wait to see what it develops into before you're ready to
I
share?
think it's the way in which God is teaching us patience to not run ahead of the message.
Yeah.
And that's why I've seen, just conversations that are going on WhatsApp, and I used to want to pipe in a lot, but now I'm just like, I'm just going to sit back. I read some of them. I don't read all of them anymore, but I think that we need to wait for the message to come on some things. We're learning the methodology. We're still students, and everyone thinks that we need to run ahead on all these things before November 9th. And I think that we have two messengers that are bringing us the message right now, because we're still students.
Yeah.
That's how I see it, and I could be wrong, but I think that we're babies learning how to use a methodology.
I remember when we first came into the message and we were students of prophecy, and the definition for us was studious, pious, and was it intelligent? Elaine? Adriana?
I have no idea.
You don't remember that?
I remember I took a hiatus.
Oh, okay.
What'd you say, Tony?
Remember when we first started learning, when we came in, they said we were as students of prophecy, they were studious, pious, and intelligent?
Yeah, that's in the, I think it's in the Book of Education.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not going to probably make it to my second study because it's 5 minutes until 8. But I do have a couple more questions. If anyone wants a question, I can ask them. Anyone except for Adriana. Unless you want a question.
No, it's a lonely road I walk. It's fine. It's okay.
Oh, come on, give her a question, the poor thing.
You're the human dictionary. It's like.
It's all good. You ask the folks.
If anyone, these ones are relatively easy, the ones I have left, if anyone wants.
What do you have? I'll try.
Christopher's on there too. You didn't get Christopher.
Oh, Christopher. Christopher, would you like an easy question? He wasn't here for the whole study though. You might know it.
Yeah, I saw that too, but maybe he might know something anyway.
They read our notes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm around. You can ask questions.
Hey, Christopher, you're ruffling up your mic. Hold your phone very still.
I'm okay. You can ask questions. Maybe I can try to answer.
Christopher, did you watch the Germany presentations? Have you seen them yet?
Not all of them. I watched 11 videos.
You watched 11 of them? Did you watch World War I with Tess? Oh, he lost his mic.
You muted yourself, Christopher. We can't hear you.
Okay.
Did you watch World War I with Tess?
Yeah, I watched it. The one for Germany.
Okay. Do you remember which countries made up the Triple Alliance?
The countries.
Yeah. Remember in the line with Austria-Hungary? There were two groups of countries. One was called the Triple Entente, and the other one was the Triple Alliance.
I can't actually remember that.
I remember. That's all right. We're doing like questions right now, but we just went through the whole study, so everyone here kind of has it fresh. But if you don't remember,
okay,
that's okay, because you just got here. Does anyone else want to? Tony, you're cheating now though, so you don't get a question.
Oh. Okay, I'll try. I won't look.
You already looked.
Germany. But look, they're so tiny. I can't read it. But so
can we answer it?
What?
Yes, Flukas family.
Lucas family.
Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy.
Okay, and who was the Triple Entente?
Oh. Russia, Britain, probably France. Okay, we think it's Russia, France, and Britain.
Yep, you got it.
Ben, I didn't know that.
Tony, look at the screen. Look at the camera, not at your paper. What was the primary catalyst for World War I? That's a hard question.
The primary catalyst. What's the catalyst?
What was the primary cause of World War I that we looked at? There were several different things, but we looked at one specifically.
Is it slavery?
No, World War I.
World War I.
Yeah. So think about, there was all these things going on. I'm trying to think of how to go back to that. It's a hard question.
Could I try to clarify a little bit, maybe to help?
Go for it.
Two little countries, the dispute over two little countries, do you remember?
Mm-mm. Okay. If you name the two little countries.
Remember, is this, I'm trying to think now, Austria-Hungary?
Yeah, Austria-Hungary was the big one.
Yeah.
And Russia was the big one, but they're disputing over two little countries.
Well, okay, different question then. What were the two little countries, Tony? We had a map up. You had the big...
I can't look at my map, huh?
No.
Go ahead.
So you had Austria-Hungary was that big country, and just below it, you had those two little countries.
Those two little ones. Oh gosh, did it start with the B and a C?
B is one of them, and you can just...
Bosnia,
yeah. So you got Bosnia. And then starts with an S.
S.
Yeah.
4 letters?
No.
No, it's a small letter. Okay, I remember that one.
6 letters. Serbia?
Serbia?
Serbia, yeah. So
Serbia. Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'll ask someone else the other question then, because if there's anyone else who wants to have a question. Jackie, what was the primary catalyst for World War I? It had to do with Bosnia, Serbia, and Austria-Hungary.
Where'd Jackie go?
She's there. Christine, do you know? No one's around anymore.
There.
I don't know, actually.
You don't know? Okay. It was an event. If anyone knows, Debbie, you go.
I'll take it. The Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary had been assassinated June 28th, 1914.
No.
He was wanting to take over Bosnia-Herzegovina.
Okay.
They killed him, and that was the catalyst. That was, I think they put it, that was the shot that was heard around the world. That's
what they call it. In this study, that was the result of this event, though. So you're right, that did happen, but the primary catalyst, because that's what most people say, and Tess went a little bit further and went kind of ahead of that and said this was the reason that happened, and this
to do with the black hands.
No?
Yeah, what caused the black hand to form?
What caused them to form?
Yeah, it's part of your question. This is also the reason why the black hand formed.
The black hand and the Archduke being shot are results of this, we'll call it a crisis that happened in 1908. Do you know what the crisis is called?
Oh, the Bosnian Crisis.
There you go. That's it. All right. Well, it's 8 o'clock. I do have simple questions left, but maybe we'll just finish it there. I didn't get to the second study. I kind of had a feeling I wasn't going to. The second one isn't that long, so I guess I'll, if that's all right. Elaine, finish that one on Wednesday.
We'll see if we can fit 3 presentations in there.
Oh, is there 2 on that night already?
Yeah, so I was gonna make the schedule today, but I didn't, so this works out, and I'll have to look at it tomorrow and see what I can finagle, but
it's all right. That gives people more time. They like that.
Yeah.
I would like to say something about the Mayflower for Lynn real quick.
All right.
Okay, so we've had relatives in our family Two of them, well, there's about 8. So the Bordens, the Winslows, both of them came on the first Mayflower. And then we've had other, because I guess there were other ships, like they were named Anna and something this and something. So we've had about 5 different families come over on the Mayflowers. The first trip.
The Pinta and the Anna Maria or something?
Yeah, there's 3 more. There's one's called the Fortune, one is called Anna, and there's, yeah, a couple other names. And then, so our history goes back to 1310 or something like that. But then the Bordens came here with my Nana. My Nana is from them, from the Mayflower. And so my sister does genealogy. And so yeah, I just want to put that in since we were talking about Mayflower.
You guys did the Ancestry.com?
She does my family, all of it. She has friends who are even with the Mormons, you know, because Mormons have all of it. So we just found a sister. Well, actually, we just found a brother and a sister. My oldest sister's adopted daughter. We found family all over New York. One day, I met 80 relatives, blood relatives I never knew when I came down for a visit. So she's been finding relatives everywhere.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been her passion for about 40 years.
I went on that when I was younger. Couldn't find anything.
So it's there.
No, because I didn't realize, like, if you're the first one here, there's nothing for you.
Oh.
Because this
is that what you meant earlier at devotional? You're not here or there, whatever it was, because.
No. It's just because you have to have previous people who immigrated here that you come from to have they don't look at anyone in Europe. They only track in the United States and genealogies here.
Oh.
And I think Canada too, maybe, I don't know. But they don't really go, because it's a mess. Like my birth certificate is on a cereal box in Romania. It's not like anything legit. They just take whatever they have handy.
Wow.
So they can't get legit records there. You can't.
Yeah.
But that's really cool that you go back all the way to.
Yeah. So the one guy back in 10 something, he's the one who made the book of the first census of who lived where and what property was whose and everything like that. He was, I guess they called it Doomsday Book or something. So he was the one who invented that or wrote that, started that. But there's all kinds of stuff that she writes. There's pictures. Oh, and even she just found our school books. You know, what do you call it? When you get a book at the end of school?
Yearbook.
Yearbook, yeah. She found one of my yearbooks, and I only went to this school for like 2 weeks.
Wow.
But I ended up in the yearbook. I didn't even know it. So.
That's terrific.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody hearing some music? Does anybody have any questions? Has anyone seen Jeopardy before on episode where they had to go to the judges on an answer? Never mind.
What are you talking about?
I don't know if I'm the only one who's ever seen that before. I'm pretty sure I've seen that. Anyway, Adriana's the judge. Inside.
I like this. I wish we could do this every night because I love the quiz thing.
It's good for us.
Yeah, that really works. I liked it.
So that's the line. That's what I hope maybe we can do more of, is because I know that when I'm sitting listening, I'm like 10 minutes after the study, I'm like, what did I don't remember anything. I shouldn't say that's not always the case. The studies are actually pretty good, but it's, yeah, good for interaction. Does anybody have any questions in regards to anything that we've looked at so far? Because some of these lines here, some of the marks on here we haven't gotten to yet. It'll come up in the last one, but is anyone confused about anything on the chart so far that we've covered? Or have any questions or points they want to point?
Is that chart separately sent? Because I can't find it. I didn't print all 22 pages, but I can't find it in there. Is it separate?
There were other applications There are other attachments in the email. There should have been. I think there was.
They are. They are.
I saw two. Maybe I hit the same one twice by accident. Okay, I'll look again.
Yeah.
So then here's another thought for us, guys. So every presentation we have, maybe that person after that, we can have a question and answer. Whoever does
Yay.
that way, we will be paying more attention and making notes with ourselves.
I vote yes.
But Adriana, you don't get to answer any questions because you know way too much.
No, only the ones that I study out myself. Those are the ones I know answers to. Otherwise, I'm just as lost as anyone else.
Right, because hers is all this is like her specialty, because that's where she all started with.
True. So she'll have to let us know which ones she hasn't really gone into on her own.
This is the hardest for me. These wars.
These ones are
Ugh,
hard.
Really hard.
Adriana, I'm blown away by how much you can remember because there's so many different lines, but for whatever reason you really got into it. And
it's because of that Monday way back in earlier this year. I started, and I didn't start with her. I started with Daniel chapter 11, and Uriah Smith's explanation of those verses up till verse 16 is where I got, and that was like the basis for everything. And then hers built on that, and this built on that, which built on the other thing. I think that was a huge help.
That's awesome.
so if we go over the study again, you should do the study again, Adriana, and ask questions because your questions are more clued into the overall thing, or your perspective is. And I'd like to try to answer some of your questions because I think that you have mine are more like I'm just focused on the line that I'm in. But
okay, well, I'll bring some Wednesday for you.
Not just for me.
Yeah. Why don't you just make a list and put them out, and then we go in and study them before that day, and then we'll have our answers too.
You want to know how bad my memory is? Some things I remember, but yesterday I went to my freezer and I pulled out a loaf of bread. I pulled a piece of bread out. I put it in the toaster, dropped the toaster, wrapped the bread up, put it back in the freezer, closed the freezer door. Then I opened the freezer door. I pulled the bread back out, unwrapped it, pulled a piece of bread out, and realized that there was already bread in the toaster. I'm not kidding you. I think I have a problem.
I think everyone's been there at some point.
No, for 5 years now. I've had serious major memory issues. Yeah, I've been counting.
This is good, guys.
Okay, so if there's no questions, then.
For Wednesday, Adriana, this might be a good thing because we might not have power on Wednesday. They're threatening to turn our power off again, and I'm supposed to be the second after Lana.
They're going to turn ours off too, Christine. All over Northern California, Wednesday and Thursday, they're going to have power outages.
Wait, I'm here. What does that mean for me?
Hey, you might have power outages too.
You might be okay where you're at, but I have the warning up too until like Wednesday or Thursday as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I'm more in suburban area. There's not for fire. Yeah. So.
Oh, fire.
Wednesday's kind of iffy. I'm trying to get my notes out, but if Jonathan and Lana are both going to be teaching, then there might not be space for me anyway. So that's okay. And then I can it'll be me and Christina on Friday.
Yeah, that works perfect. There you go.
Awesome. Okay, great. Perfect.
All right, so I guess we'll close with prayer, and then anyone who needs to leave can leave. Anyone who wants to stay can stay. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we want to thank you again for these great opportunities to come together and to study and to try new methods and ways of learning and understanding, Lord. Lord, I think that you put this group together. You've picked each person for a specific reason to be here right now and a part of this group. I think of my walk as a Christian, Lord, and all the different places that it seems that you brought me and the different people that you put me in contact with along the way. I can see that there was a purpose for everything along the way, and it's just such an amazing thing that all of us are here together studying this message, all of us in different places, and we all believe this message, Lord, because you put the desire in our heart, and we've sought it out because we knew that there is a God, and and that he manifests himself in these magnificent ways for us to see and to know and to have faith and to trust in you and all these things, Lord. So, and I know each one of us here has a story, a long story of how we just ended up here together at this time in history as the world is about to close. And this great work that you have for us, Lord. We're so thankful to be a part of it. Lord, I don't speak just for myself, where we all feel pretty inadequate and incapable of handling such a thing, Lord, and that it's by your grace only that we can handle this holy message and hope that we can handle it properly, Lord, for you and for your glory. So I thank you, Lord, for each person that is here right now. I'm greatly blessed by each person that is present, and everyone has their talents, Lord, and I think we see them in each one. And so, Lord, we just thank you. I pray that you'll bless each person as we go from here. I pray you'll bless the present or the future studies that are coming up, those who are preparing, Lord. And I pray that we'll continue to find new ways to help each other to learn and to remember this message, Lord. There's so much to it, but we know that by your grace, you'll make it possible. So, Lord, we thank you and we love you, and we pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.